Hello everyone. This video is shot from the helmet camera of our crew chief in the the rear right seat. And the reason why I'm doing this commentary, actually one of my subscribers and actually my friend and my neighbor, last week I was talking to him about it. He had watched a bunch of my videos and he suggested this, obviously, because if you were Army aviation and you had anything to do with flying, whatever, this video would totally make sense to you. But the average person, they have no idea what's going on. So that's why I decided to do a voiceover commentary for this video. So again, this video was shot from the rear right. And as you see, he's opening the window there because we're getting close to coming into land. And what this mission was we had an Afghan police officer at a checkpoint, like in the middle of nowhere. I felt horrible for these guys. They literally had this tiny little building and a little gate in the middle of nowhere, like I said. And this guy supposedly had appendicitis or something like that, which was kind of always sketchy, but I guess it made sense because these guys' diet was not that great. We actually did quite a few missions for appendicitis. But also on this mission, we have 2 Special Forces Polish medics on board, which was awesome. These guys were trained at the 18 Delta course in the US, and they were highly specialized with medical, and also the fact that they were shooters as well. I mean, our guys obviously had guns as well, but these guys were special ops, so they were more so trained for it. And also the medic, our medic, that was on board on this mission. This was his very first mission. He had just come from one of our other platoons. We did some transfers somewhere in the deployment. We moved some people around. We exchanged pilots, exchanged crew chiefs and medics. And also, due to the remote location of this mission, where we were going to, we suggested, or we were told, that we needed gun support. The Apaches were unfortunately not available on this day, and this mission took place on early Sunday morning. I believe we got the mission the night before, but due to the nature of it, we could wait till the next morning to go. He wasn't bleeding out and he wasn't dying. At that time, he was stable. So 2 Polish MI-24 HIND helicopters supported us, and unfortunately you can't see them in the video. But what's cool about it now, we're on the approach and you kind of see where the dust is starting to come in behind us, and it wasn't too dusty. And when the crew chief jumps out of the window, everything's going to be going on the left side. So he'll walk around up to the nose here, and you'll see these guys over there in the corner. There's a guy holding a flag, and they had also started a small fire in the corner of the LZ because they didn't have smoke grenades. And we didn't teach these guys how to do this. They just did it, you know, and they put the smoke and the flag up for wind identification for us. And it was pretty awesome that they weren't trained to do this, or apparently they were, but we didn't train them to do it. And it was very helpful coming in there because there's really no trees out there, anything that's going to indicate wind direction for us. And you'll see now the 2 Polish medics are assessing the patient and checking them out, feeling them down for injuries, along with any other things, weapons, explosives, whatever, which really we got kind of angry at our medic on this mission that when they brought this guy up to the aircraft, he was literally just in a blanket because they didn't have a litter. And they just ran him to the aircraft and tossed him in. That's why you notice we were on the ground for like a very brief moment. And we had a pretty good talk with our medic after the fact that he didn't stop them and check them out, because who knows what was in that blanket or what's on this guy, obviously. Thankfully, everything worked out, and we were safe, and the patient was all right in the end. But you'll notice that once he looks back to the rear again, the Polish medics here, they start to take his jacket off, and eventually they'll put an IV in his arm. So the crew chief's still putting a seatbelt on. They also use what's called like a monkey harness, that there's like hooks in the floor, hooks in the ceiling, and that's also wrapped around them. So if they're moving around inside the aircraft, they hook that in, which our medic should be wearing there. In the event that we have to make sudden movements or whatever, at least they're strapped in some way. And the Polish medics in the back, they're also harnessed in. You can see the harness behind his back there. And here they start to take off his jacket. This guy is pretty limp. Unfortunately, I remember both these medics in the back, but I only remember one's name, the one on the left there. A really good friend of mine. I still am in touch with him today occasionally. We're connected on Facebook, and which is really the only reason I have Facebook, to stay connected with my friends that are located all over the world. I'm sure my buddies can pop up somewhere in the comments or whatever and remind me of the other medic's name. But you notice in the window frame there's a little red button every once in a while when he goes back and forth. And what that is, in the event that, right there, you can see it on the right side, in the event that the crew chief sees something outside, possibly a weapon system being fired at us, more so like radar guided or a heat guided weapon system, he can push that button and deploy chaff and flares. And what that is, the flares, obviously that's for a heat seeking device, and hopefully after launching those, the weapon system will be attracted to the flares rather than us. And the chaff is basically just metal foil that gets deployed out, and it's supposed to, it'll block a like a radar signal. Anyway, so now we're getting ready to land back into Ghazni here on the main pad on FOB Ghazni. And this particular patient, actually the Polish medical team, they brought their ambulance over and they collected the patient. Pretty sure my buddy, he was on the controls that day. I was sitting left seat, like I said. See, they got him IV'd up there. There's the ambulance, and the crew will come in. And you'll notice I said earlier how they brought him in a blanket. They'll kind of cinch the blanket up around him and kind of transfer him out to the litter, which is a heck of a lot more of a stable platform. Cool thing is, with this particular video, today is the first time I watched it. I know I collected some of the helmet camera footage from some of our other crew members while we were still deployed to make a final video at the end of the deployment, and I really hadn't watched this. I remember the mission vividly in the cockpit, but as I said, it's completely different view, obviously, in the back seat. You see what's going on back there. And after every mission, once we're done, we don't have any other missions, at least that we're aware of at this point, we will always refuel immediately, because you never know what's going to happen 10 minutes after we shut down. Because there were a couple places that we went, especially from Ghazni, that it was almost an hour and a half round trip. And we had enough fuel to complete that, but you never know if you have to divert for weather or anything that's going to keep you in the air for a longer period of time, or you may need to transfer somebody up to Bagram or whatever. So you just always want to keep your tanks as full as possible. You'll notice some of the medical equipment back there, EKGs, Sharps container there. You just hand it off to the crew chief. And in the front, we're going to do a before takeoff check. Make sure that everybody's in the aircraft, strapped in, seat belted in or something. And then we'll pick up the aircraft and we'll reposition over to the FARP. And you see our second aircraft over there. Because they didn't have patients on board, they went straight to the refueling pad. So we just do a little pedal turn here. Or actually, no, we didn't even have to do a pedal turn. We just slide left and land in the FARP. So I'm sitting in the left seat there. Everybody, with the exception of the pilots, gets out of the aircraft when you refuel. Close the windows, close the doors. In the event that there's a flash fire on the outside of the aircraft or the inside, nobody's gonna get burned up, with the exception of the pilots. There's my boy, former 173rd Airborne. Before he went to flight school, he spent some time in the Korengal Valley. Some of you may have seen the documentary Restrepo. I'm pretty sure he was there at that time when all that went down. So you have the logistics guys on the ground, the refuelers. They'll hook up. There I am in the left seat. We always do live refueling. Depending on where you're at, some places you don't have that option, where you'll actually, a fuel truck will come up to the aircraft after we shut down and we'll get fuel that way. But there I am again, my ugly mug. The clean shaven face, well, for the most part. Didn't need to take a lot of gas. And we had 2 landing pads at Ghazni that we would position our aircraft on permanently. So we'll leave the FARP here, go land at the pads, shut down the aircraft, and do a complete checkout of the aircraft for any damage, anything that may have broken, or hopefully not, or bullet holes that we may not even have noticed at the time. We'll do a complete post-flight, and then we'll get the aircraft ready to go for the next mission. In the event that there's any blood on the floor, we'll, as a crew, we'll clean all that up and just prep it for the next adventure.